That's right. Well, I mean, obviously we're going to look into the possibility of trying to set something up in Blackpool, because you say in Blackpool there is no ghost club. I mean, we know there are one or two different psychic clubs, aren't there? I think knocking about, but that tends to be all about. A lot of it seems to be about clairvoyancy and mediumship. It's not about actually trying to research.
Going out there and doing it.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You can go see Paula Paraduma. She's very good, actually. You can go and see, I think, the Gypsy Petralengo.
Petralengo, yes.
Say it properly.
That's easy for me to say.
I mean, they actually live in the South Shore Martin area. Very nice people. It's like a psychic development group, or the spiritualist churches. It's to develop yourself personally. Good.
Yeah.
Go out there and do it.
Yeah.
Although some people would argue, you're born with it. You can't learn it. Then again, you could argue that one again. Well, I couldn't drive a car, but I learned. Swings and roundabouts.
Why do you think paranormal activity seems to be on the increase? Because apparently, if you believe the facts, over the last 3 years, they reported sightings and people actually recounting stories about ghosts and seeing things has really gone up in the last 3 years. Now, we'll come to this in a minute, but do you think it's got anything to do with the fact that Most Haunted has become such a popular institution now? Or do you think that maybe something really is happening within the atmosphere where there are more and more reported sightings? Or do you think it's because communication is so much better now with things like the internet that there are more forums for people to discuss it? Or what do you think?
Right, I shall answer this in reverse. With your last question, yes, you've got the World Wide Web, you've got internet, you've got email. It's a lot more easy to research things and get information. As for the second one, that is an interesting one. A lot more people are getting a lot more honest and open.
Yeah.
You know, it's the sort of things that some people are quite comfortable talking about, like myself, and other people wouldn't dream of it. Then again, you could say that a couple of years ago, it's like with advertising, there were certain things with feminine products you weren't allowed to discuss or put on television. Now, it's like the reality programs, the barriers within society are being knocked down a bit, so nobody thinks you're as loopy as you actually make out you are. When you go, oh, I've seen a ghost, oh, do tell, and everybody goes and sort of leans in, and then you've always got your own little story, or oh, my uncle this, or my auntie that, or well, I saw, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And it's like a trigger. You tell somebody something, and then we've had that with our experience last week. I went to see a woman today, and I was fitting a computer for her, and I told her. And she sort of said, oh, I believe you went to Salisbury Hall. And I said, yes. Did you see anything? Yes. 7 of us think we saw a ghost. Really? Wow, it's amazing. Well, my daughter swears blind that she sees her granddad sat at the bottom of the bed upstairs, and there's no doubt about it. She honestly believes it. And it's funny, I've not had actually anybody who thinks we're a bunch of crackpots so far. Everyone has said, yeah, we want to listen, here's my story. So
it's like a
maybe
trigger.
You're right, yeah.
It's like a trigger point. If it's a specific subject, such as ghosts, or even, should we ban smoking in pubs and restaurants, things like that. There's specific subjects that always get a reaction out of people. And the paranormal and ghosts is one of them.
Yeah, okay.
And as for your first question, if you actually watch the television now, not just like the terrestrial television ones, the Sky and the cable, in here in Britain and in the US, it's big business. It's all about money making and ratings and things. And I mean, it's like t-shirts at 15 quid a pop. You're selling 1,000 of those at a limited edition. You're making a mint. The phone lines for when you ring in, or the locations. It's just, to me, yes, it is good television in some instances because you think, oh, that is good. But there's other instances you think, oh, how fake. Please, and you end up screaming at the television, but some people are quite gullible.
Well, I was going to come to that about Most Haunted, obviously we're talking about here. And for those people who haven't seen Most Haunted, and there may well be quite a few out there who haven't seen it, it is, of course, a programme on Living TV, which, of course, involves a group of investigators looking at supposedly haunted locations, and, of course, they take a medium with them. That medium, 9 times out of 10, is Derek Acora, who, of course, has just left the show. Derek Acora is a bleached blonde scouter with an earring who's a larger-than-life character, and he's very entertaining, but, of course, there are so many aspersions now cast about whether he's genuine or not. There was an article in the paper on Friday that a member of the team actually said that he deliberately set him up and he'd fallen for the trap, and that you could no longer, he wasn't in the presence of a real medium and that kind of thing.
You could argue this one. The believers, the skeptics, the people on the fences. The only way that the skeptics would be proved wrong is if they had a private reading. But then again, that would be how many thousands of people? And he told them something specific that he couldn't research. But I would say that about any medium or any psychic.
Sure.
Tell me something that nobody else would know. And I believe them, then I'd say, okay,
Yeah.
hop on. He's alright or she's alright. But there are so many ways around it, I do genuinely want to believe, what I see and what I hear about, various people, be it on the telly or, around the local area, but I want proof first.
Sure.
I'm not just going to think, oh, it must all be right, it's on telly. Or I read it in the paper. Well, somebody told me. It's just validating it at the end of the day scientifically again.
I mean, in your opinion, do you think anything that these sort of programs do, such as Most Haunted, is any of it genuine, do you think? Is it all...
If it is, it's by accident.
Right.
But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking on behalf of, some people think, oh, wow, wonderful. Is it entertainment? Is it real? It's up to the individuals to make, that assumption. I believed it was real, but I've seen evidence and, things to the contrary that makes me think, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Something smells a bit fishy. Something looks a bit fishy.
Do you think, from what I've heard, other rival, I know for a fact that BBC wanted to buy Most Haunted and show old repeats for a couple of years and then maybe start showing new stuff, but apparently they turned them down because they're tied into, obviously, living TV. But there are, by all accounts, several programmes in the pipeline, maybe on Channel 5 or ITV or Channel 4 that want to
I've heard that as well.
Get into that. If you were in charge of this kind of a programme, how would you make it differ from the others that have been out there? What would your approach be?
Well, firstly, I would, get a good team of researchers who are going to put the facts down, who do, a mixed bag, so to speak. People who believe in things like this, and people who don't. Just because they're maybe 16, I shouldn't discount them, or because, they live at the other end of London, or some of them live in Blackpool. I would get together, a proper team, not people who are like, oh look, I'm great to be on telly, la la la, make myself look pretty and get myself a name, and then go and do, ghost investigations and things at Salisbury Hall or wherever. To me, I wouldn't be, but then again, I think I've just got a voice for radio and not for television. Yes. If you saw me, you'd understand why. It's weird. I wouldn't do it just to get the ratings.
Right.
I'd sort of say, right, I'm going to try and do this scientifically. If I find out anybody's trying to make this fake or frauding it, they get kicked out, they get kicked off. Because people would try and set you up. It's just too tempting. I would.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see what we can do to chip them up and make them look silly. I would get, not celebrities. Yeah, great, if they want to come in, wonderful. If not, just like your ordinary Joe public, and get a genuine reaction.
Yeah.
Not a group of good-looking 20 or 30-year-olds,
Yeah.
I would take my mother. I would
Sure.
take my dad.
Because to be fair...
I would, so it'd be not just...
Yeah, no, you're right. Because on Most Haunted, and I noticed because I've been to 3 live Most Haunted, when they pick somebody to come out of the audience, it is nearly always a really attractive blonde woman in the 20s. And also the reaction when they sort of say, right, we've picked your name out, they already know. They don't look surprised at all.
They don't, do they? Although we had Harry Potter, didn't we? We had Harry Potter this one.
Really?
Harry Potter look-alike.
Oh, really? I didn't see it, actually. I must have...
He did look like Harry Potter.
Oh, right. But also, when they get somebody out of the audience, they don't tend to do anything. You always think, what happened to the person who came out of the audience? So they actually speak. They usually have the men in the background, but you never see them again, do you?
They kind of just stand there and go, I felt a draft of my left leg.
Yeah.
Or something went past. Maybe they broke wind. I don't know. Not sure. Your guess is as good as mine. I really don't know.
But yeah, I think, like you say, you're right. I think there is definitely a gap for possibly a less showbizy type program. Do you think? I'm sure somebody will do it eventually. I'm sure they will.
There's enough organisations that would gladly, just say, right, we've got this. Can you come and investigate this? There's magazines that do things like this. There's groups. I've actually given him. Try again. I've actually given you some literature.
Yeah.
That you can read through where people, set up groups all over the country and then swap information,
Yeah.
which is good because they want to do it properly and scientifically. That's what you think Hawking and Einstein tried to do when they explain, the theory of relativity and black holes. Yes, it's difficult to understand, but once you get your head around the principles and basics of it, you think,
Yeah.
And it kind of overlaps into the paranormal as well. Because you think, what is a paradox? Could it happen? Does if we had a TARDIS with Doctor, is it possible? You know, could we go in the future? Could we go back in time? Would we be able to alter it? And if you did, you'd create a paradox and change history. And
sure. But of course, you're a bit like us, really. I mean, we did this thing on Wednesday, and although we've put it on our website, we've not done it for any commercial gain, and we never ever will. It's just interest. It's interest and genuine enthusiasm in doing it. And I think if you've got that, you're more likely to get honest results, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like you say, you're not trying to sell T-shirts or DVDs at 15 quid a pop.
No.
You know, we don't do that, do we? Even if we could, I don't think we would.
I don't think people would buy a T-shirt of me on the front.
I'm pretty sure they wouldn't buy one of Chris and I unless they were for someone they didn't like very much.
Maybe a picture of my jacket. I don't know. It's a picture of a cute dog I saw that we took on the investigation.
But we're going back to the file. Is there anywhere in file that you would say, if somebody said to you, right, okay, Juliette, we're going to give you the keys to such and such, and you can spend a couple of nights there, whatever. Is there anywhere in Blackpool that you would love to investigate? You know, sort of interference-free. If you could take a group of us, if we decided to go, where would you want to go?
There's so many. I mean, pubs around this local area for a kick-off. Slightly further afield, Lytham Hall.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would love that. The Pleasure Beach. I mean, please. Cloggy, hello. The workers actually make the noises and jump out. I know. My late granddad used to do that.
Should say Cloggy, of course, is something that most haunted went to Blackpool Pleasure Beach and picked up apparently on this spirit called Cloggy, which I do have on good authority was slightly less than
legit, shall we say?
Yes, there was a slight loophole. We think.
I mean, you've got people's houses. It's not just sort of buildings where maybe there's been a bank 100 years ago or an establishment. You know, you could go from one end of Lytham to the other end of Fleetwood and sort of say, right, let's go through and see where we can go. It's, you know, people may be listening to this thinking, oh yes, my friend Ian might say, oh yes, what about this? You can come around here and that'd be really good. It's just getting out there and doing it at the end of the day and getting permission and sort of saying, look, we're not daft, we're not out to make money, we just want to do a proper scientific investigation.
There are certainly a couple of pubs in Lytham that I'm aware of. I think one of them, what would it be? Not the County, the other one, right bang in the centre, the really old one.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Ship and Royal. A friend of mine used to work in the Ship and Royal, and he is as hopefully as sane as they come. And I know that he used to work down in the cellar, and he actually saw this figure walk straight past him. And when he ran up towards it, it wasn't there. I know that the landlady herself has said that she's experienced loads of things down there because it's a very, very, very old building. So places like that would be great, I suppose, wouldn't they, to investigate?
I mean, the windmills across the file, you've got so many things. It's just sort of sitting down and thinking, oh, that would be good to spend a night there. Even in people's houses, silly as it sounds. I mean, I could fill up several pages of A4 thinking, right, what about this one, what about this one, what about this one? And not just the obvious ones.
No.
You know, maybe, you know, silly as it sounds, sand dunes, which is a bit ridiculous. Right, you'd be cold, but you'd have to have a fire. You know, but silly things. Tower would be great, but getting permission, of course. You know, that's the main.
And of course, most haunted went to the tower, and they apparently picked up on things. But I know probably half a dozen people who either work or have worked at the tower, and they all swear that they hear and see things in that ballroom all the time.
It would be interesting just to get a local's point of view, not just with, you know, our famous landmarks, but with other ones that maybe some people might not have heard of. Like the graveyards. Everyone goes, oh, could you spend the night in a graveyard? Well, you don't know what you'd see. Might not see anything.
That's right.
But it's not just a waste of time, it's just gathering information and collating it at the end of the day.
And of course doing it scientifically. So I presume when you've done these investigations, what kind of techniques do you use? I mean, do you have things like, I mean, we bought an EMF meter for our thing. I know that they're not totally reliable, but they're not a bad starting point, are they really? But you know, what sort of equipment do you think you'd use if you're going on those kind of things? Because it's not just a case of sitting there, is it? Although
some people just would. I mean, taking pictures not just with digital, but with like proper film.
Yeah.
Because some people would accuse you of tampering with a digital photograph with Photoshop. As with a negative, it's very difficult to do that. A pen and a piece of paper or a notepad.
Yeah.
It sounds stupid, but your account will be different from mine. I might see something that you might not. At the end of the day, you know, your EMF meters. Might be dowsing sticks, crystals, things like that. Anything you can think of that would get different readings and different quantitative data at the end of the day.
And dowsing sticks are to do with ley lines, aren't they? Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah.
I mean, you could do that around this sort of general area in South Shore because they would cross. I mean, you can use it on people as well and get cold spots and hot spots in rooms.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting.
Right. Yeah, what your opinion on cold spots? Because I went to Chingle Hall about 10 years ago, and we were in the Great Hall there, and there was a roaring fire. I mean, because it was quite cold. It was sort of September, and it was getting a bit chilly in the evenings. And there was a really great roaring fire going, and I was stood right next to this fire. Yet all around me it felt like I was in a block of ice. All my friends were warm as toast, but they touched me, and I was absolutely free. I didn't feel scared, but I was cold. Now, one of the tour guides came over and said, "Oh yeah, that's a known cold spot." But we never really got to the bottom of what it was. We just took her word for it that people have experienced stuff there. But because it's weird, isn't it? You can experience genuine cold, and then 3 feet away, it's not cold.
No, it's not cold.
So what's that usually put down to? Is that real? Do you think energy there, or
It could be energy. It could be general.
could be a draft? Could be a hole in the roof.
Could be a hole in the roof.
But
You've got to think with some of these buildings as well. When they were built, they had trapdoors.
yeah,
So they could escape or hide from whoever or whatever. Not having been round, I'd actually think it's the trapdoor. But I'd like to go around and sort of think, okay, are there any holes in the ground, so to speak? Are there any drafts? Even something, like very small, like the size of a 10-pence piece, could create quite a good draft. Or if you're stood in a specific position, or maybe you're coming down with a cold. There's so many reasons.
Yeah, sure.
I would try and think of everything before I would come at the very last one, like, it's paranormal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the best way to reach a conclusion, isn't it?
It's like if you take a picture and you think, oh, I've taken a picture of a ghost, and you get everybody to look at it and go, oh yeah, well it kind of looks like a towel, or is it the angle? Did you have a flash? Didn't you have a flash? Were you using digital? Were you using proper film?
Well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it, about people's interpretations. And again, when we were at Salisbury Hall, I had to keep asking people, and you'll hear this on the tape, as we were looking at this thing, I kept saying to people, is anybody here in any doubt what that is? If anybody really thinks it's a branch of a tree flapping about, please tell me, because we'll take your point of view across. But nobody disagreed.
I mean, sometimes when you get a group of like-minded individuals together, they tend to come out with the same thing. So this is why I would want to mix the people.
Yeah.
Who are sceptical, for want of a better word, who can come up with, things maybe, because, I would love to get something proper on film. But then again, you get the people, the skeptics in, the world going, oh, it's CGI. You could have an alien stood next to you at a Star Trek convention, and you wouldn't think anything, it could be a real alien. But you think, my God, that's a good costume. And
sure.
You would.
It's interesting,
but
though,
that desensitised to it. You could have a ghost and it'd be like, hello.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think anything of it.
But out of the 7 or 8 of us that went to Salisbury Hall, there were 4 people. Chris, is this right? I think there were 4 people in that group that I never met before. Obviously, I know you, and I know Annie, and I know your sister, but there was 4 people there that I'd never met before. So it's not like we'd had all a good chat before. We were all pally-pally. I don't even know now. I don't know the surnames of any of them. So that was quite interesting. It's not like we'd all been friends for 15 years and we'd all, we're going to see a ghost tonight. The people I just met for the first time there that night. So it was like being with, half of them were strangers to me.
Usually the best way I find. I mean, obviously, if you've known people over a period of time, you get to know their nuances and
exactly,
what their specialities are.
Exactly. I think that's what makes it so much more interesting. Is that they were all different people that were all seeing it, which is weird. Very strange.
It'd be interesting if they were, they saw the same thing in different parts of the room. Or you were separated by, different walls or things like that. That would be interesting.
Well, I think you'll find it interesting, especially even if you don't find what obviously there's no evidence. All you're getting on that is our reaction to it. But certainly, the mini-disc recording of a grandfather clock when there was no clock there is bizarre. And we didn't pick up on that till 2 days later when we actually went over the tape and we thought, God, that's weird. And it is strange.
I mean, sometimes you pick things up that, you haven't heard or you haven't seen with your naked eye and you think, how did I miss that?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's right. But when we double-checked, like I said, no grandfather clock there. It was actually in a completely different part of the room and it could not have picked it up from there. Sorry, different part of the building. It could no chance it could have picked it up because there was 2 doors between it. Bizarre.
It's like when you put things down sometimes and they get moved and you haven't moved them.
Exactly.
I mean, I can understand with obviously some of your listeners obviously having, little sight or no sight at all, and it's obviously paramount that you know where everything is.
Of course, yeah.
But what if, there's nobody been in your flat or your house and something's moved? how do you explain that?
That's right.
Oh, well, such money might have come in. It's almost like you try and rationalise it in your head. Well, such money might have come in, to bring dinner, and maybe they might have moved it. But there's obviously times when you think, no, I can't think of a logical explanation for this. And it's probably happened to all of us.
It's a common thing, though, isn't it? Because I speak to people who say, oh, well, I'm pretty sure there's a poltergeist in my house because I was speaking to somebody the other day, this fairly young girl in her teens was saying, well, a CD jumped off my stereo a few weeks ago, and I said, well, you mean it fell off? And she went, no, it literally kind of went like that. I'm just lifting up this matty, it just sort of lifted up and then moved a couple of feet to the right and then dropped on the floor. She actually saw it happen, and I've heard so many people who say that, and people say it so matter-of-factly, and it seems so common, and I don't think there's any real reason for these people to make it up.
I mean, why would they?
Exactly, they're not going to get any gain from it. They're just going to be ridiculed by people, a lot of people.
Definitely.
I mean, you've had it.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Get it now.
I've had it. I mean, I tell my friends that I believe in ghosts, and they just keep telling me what a load of rubbish. But to be absolutely fair, I think until you actually prove that they don't exist, it really annoys me when people say they don't exist. Well, prove it. I can't say that UFOs don't exist. I personally think they do. I think it's probably ridiculous to think we're the only intelligent life.
It's like, turn around, go on, prove God exists.
Well, exactly.
Can of worms.
Of course it is. No, it's completely.
It's like with anybody's belief. Some people will be swayed by opinion and what they read in the newspapers or what they see on television, and other people will actually go out there and think, okay, I'm going to see what I can find out for myself.
Definitely. Well, I think what we should do is see if we can get something going. Obviously, we're going to. I think that it's Horton Tower, isn't it, Chris? The next one we're going to try and look at. We think we might have a foot in the door at Horton Tower in Preston. Have you ever been there? I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a massive, imposing medieval castle thing. Is it halfway between Blackburn and Preston? And it's got links with Salisbury Hall, hasn't it? We think we can probably get in there for an overnight stay. So you should come with us, definitely. And it would be somebody with a genuine interest in it, and a different face on the team, which I think could be great.
I'd really enjoy that.
Yeah, I think we should, and I think the good thing about being here is that we're not just a bunch of sort of like, maybe in their opinion, strange people. We're actually sort of professional people doing this for another reason as well. But at the same time, we can go in there and record some stuff, and we're doing it for a good cause because we're attached to a charity, which is often the way in, isn't it? I mean, even if we sort of say, well, we're going to do it for charity and get people to sponsor us to stay the night in a haunted house, it's a great way of doing it, isn't it? So we'll have to see what happens, but it would be good if we could, because we'd like to do this regularly, because we enjoyed it, didn't we, on Wednesday night? Chris, thumb up, thank you. And Chris always puts his thumb there, and we always know that he's agreement. Right, well, thank you for coming in, Juliette. It's been very nice to meet you, and we'll definitely try and set something up. I think if we can get some like-minded people, maybe. It doesn't even have to be a massive group, does it? We could just get even into double figures if we could get 10 or something.
Right, I'd just like to thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
And no doubt your listeners will hear of our further adventures very soon.
They will. No, they definitely will. And also we're hoping that through the website that we're going to set up that more people will listen to it. We're trying to get some promotion, maybe in the Paranormal magazine. I've actually been in contact with our editor already, or tried to, sent her an email to just tell her about what we're doing. But I'm not too sure what will happen with that one, but we'll see, we'll find out.
Right, thanks very much indeed.
Brilliant.